What's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to be going over 5 different ETFs that you may or may not have heard about. Now, we all know and love the S&P 500. We've probably all heard about the NASDAQ ETF, the QQQ, and the Dow Jones ETF, but there are so many more ETFs out there, and there's so many stocks that these 3 ETFs do not include that may interest you or may be a better investing strategy for you. We all have different strategies and we all have different financial goals. So these 3 ETFs that we all know and love may not be your best bet. There may be something better out there, and hopefully that's what this video will uncover for you. But I just want to give out the disclaimer that this is not financial advice in any way, shape, or form. This is purely for education and entertainment purposes only. Before you invest, make sure you consult with a financial advisor and do your due diligence. But let's jump back. So here's the S&P 500 that we all know and love, 500 different companies. But here's how many companies there actually are in the world. There are thousands of companies out there. So that's what we're going to uncover today. But before that, guys, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and check out my channel if you haven't already. I have over 100 different videos of great content relating to the stock market and finance and Bitcoin and you name it. But we're going to dive in, and the very first ETF I want to go over is XLK. This is your tech stock ETF. All of those big tech stocks that we all know and love and we're trying to make massive gains with are wrapped up into this ETF. And if we go over to holdings, first you can see the breakdown: 90% technology, 7% financials, which are your fintech stocks. I'm not sure what that 1.5% industrials is, but here are your top 10 holdings. There are a total of 78 different stocks. And real quick, we're going to jump over to a different website. Here's all 78 holdings. Most of us probably know about these companies. They have made some massive gains over the past 10 to 20 years. But let's jump back to Seeking Alpha. If we go over to dividends, you're not going to get a big dividend out of it. You will get something, a very small amount, less than 1%, which isn't, it's better than nothing. But most of these stocks are going to be your big tech, high growth stocks. So they're taking that money and they're reinvesting it. If we go 10 years out, 562%. If we were to compare it to the NASDAQ, because the NASDAQ has a lot of tech stocks as well, the NASDAQ is beating it by a little bit, but not too many ETFs out there can boast plus 500% returns over the course of 10 years. That's incredible, and I can only wish for that kind of return. Moving on to the next ETF, maybe tech stocks aren't your thing. Maybe you want more dividends because you are older now, and this may be a great ETF for you, the DVY. This is a dividend ETF. If we jump over to holdings really quick, we are made up of 107 different holdings here. A lot of it is in your utilities and financials, along with all of these other sectors. But if we jump back to the summary, you could see that it has a 3.19% dividend yield. And more importantly to me, at least, is its dividend growth rate. A steady dividend growth rate, 6.48%. Over the past 10 years, it has been 7.56%. To me, that's pretty good. And this could be a solid ETF. Again, if you want to get more dividends out of it, you're not going to get a lot of price appreciation, but it will pay you that nice dividend. Moving on to the next ETF, you may or may not know about it, the IWM. This is the iShares Russell 2000. These are your small cap stocks. It's not going to be Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook. Those are all blue chip companies. These are all of your small chip companies, your small caps. If we go over to holdings, they call it the Russell 2000 for a reason. You can see there's 2016 different holdings. So a little over $2,000 made up of all of these different small cap stocks. And it's pretty diverse when it comes to sectors, which is nice. Here are your top 10. You may or may not have heard of some of them. I know AMC, we got BJ's and Crocs and Avis Budget Group. I'm not too sure about the other companies though, but 2,000 companies is a lot. And you could see even its biggest holding, which is AMC, isn't even 1%. So it is very, very diverse. And if we jump over to dividends, it does give a small dividend. Nothing too crazy, a little less than 1%, but these smaller companies may not be mature enough to pay out that dividend. So keep that in mind. But if we look over the past 10 years, it's gone up 200%. Nothing wrong with that growth. That's still an incredible growth rate. So if you want exposure to all of these smaller cap stocks, check out the IWM. But now we're going to move on to this one is really interesting to me. VEU. This is an all-world ex-US ETF. So it's pretty much taking all the stocks minus your US stocks, which I think is pretty cool. Not necessarily if you're betting against America, but maybe you're just rooting for the rest of the world. You think that there's a lot of development and growth outside of America, and it's going to catch up, and you want to capitalize on that. And this may be your best bet. It has, if we go over to holdings, a whopping 3,637 different holdings. You can see the top is Nestle. And then we got Tencent, which owns TikTok. There's Toyota is up there as well. And if we jump back over to stock analysis, here are the top 200 different stocks. All of my American investors may notice, hold on, there's periods and numbers. Yeah, when it comes to non-US stocks, this is how they determine or how they represent their tickers. So you could have all this great exposure from all over the world. 3,637 different companies are out there. And the ETF is pretty affordable in my books. $62.01. And for a dividend, 2.46%. But look at the dividends back on Seeking Alpha. Jump over here. Here says 2.41, 2.46, around the same ballpark. But I mean, almost 2.5% is pretty good. And the diversification in this ETF is absolutely amazing. So again, that ticker is VEU, probably my favorite ETF, the VTI. Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. Over the past 10 years, it has gone up 268%. Holdings, we have 4,127 holdings. Here is your breakdown. A lot of it is technology because those are your biggest companies in the world right now. Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Tesla, Alphabet again, Facebook, Nvidia, or should I call it Meta now, JP Morgan, and Berkshire Hathaway. And if we jump over to dividends, it does pay a dividend, a little over 1%. Nothing too crazy though, 1.19%. But again, this is every single stock. So this is the lazy investors approach. This is you don't care about the stock market or you are worried about making the wrong choice. Well, then for $240, you could own a little bit of every single company. And if we go out to the max, you see that it has just done an absolutely amazing job with its return. Again, it's done 268%. Pretty on par with the S&P 500. If you go out more years, if you go out 10 or 15 years, it's actually a little bit better. But if you look at the S&P 500, you're right around the same percentage, give or take 1%. They kind of flip-flop every week or so. The S&P 500 has had a better return than the next week. The VTI will have a better return. So you're going to get very similar returns here. Anything could happen in the future. No one can predict it. So this will give you the most protection and the most diversification. But guys, those are your 5 ETFs, 5 alternative ETFs from the S&P 500, NASDAQ, or Dow Jones. I hope you learned something from this video. Again, if you liked it, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And guys, as always, I will see you in the next one.